Welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Why, hey there, my fabulous listener. Welcome to episode 186 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you, as always, for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there, and I really do appreciate you making me one of them. If you're enjoying this podcast, then let's get social on social. Head to Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever your favorite platform is, and say hello. I would really love to hear from you. Maybe you could even take a screenshot of you listening to this and tag me in your socials. That would be super cool, because I would just like to cheer you on as much as you are cheering me on by listening to this podcast. Of course, the show notes for this entire episode and any links mentioned can be found at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/186. If you just happened to hear that barring, that was my pet lamb when I started to talk. I know where my mum is. I'm going to bar. Anyway. So this week's episode is actually sponsored by Melbourne Innovation Centre and their Digital Solutions Program. I've been involved with Melbourne Innovation Centre for a few years now as one of their mentors and workshop hosts, and I'm pretty chuffed when they wanted to sponsor my podcast for a few weeks to get the word out there about their digital solutions programs. So if you live in Victoria, prick your ears, listen up, because the Melbourne Innovation Centre has subsidised programs that can really help you if you're struggling in small business, especially with reaching new customers or with digital marketing or whatever that might be. They have a digital solutions program that for just $44, you can get access to 3 hours of mentoring with the mentor of your choice, Jen Donovan, and access to free weekly training, workshops, masterclasses, webinars, online courses, and so much more. So if you're interested, go to the show notes at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/186 or just go to courses.melbourneinnovation.com.au. So on to today's episode. Today I have a special guest. Her name is Ines Scooby, and I hope that I have pronounced that surname right. Apologies, Ines, if I have not. And she is all about intuitive eating and focusing on entrepreneurial women. But hey, just a sec, we all really do need to think about the thought leadership around our health as well. So if you aren't an entrepreneurial woman, then please don't tune out. Stick around. This podcast is for you. Health and business and wise words about both is what is coming your way from my special guest today. Ines and I belong to the same private group called One Roof, and we've had lots of chats online and been sending DMs and including some pretty funny videos, I must say. Ines is all about helping self-employed women feel energized and confident through one tiny experiment at a time. And I really love that idea and that concept. She's just full of life. She's such a great girl, and I can't wait for you to have a listen to her. So sit back, sit up, listen in, lean in, whatever you are doing, because here's my conversation with Ines. I am so excited to have you on my podcast today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Jen. I'm so excited about this discussion too.
Oh, look, I love like our little videos that whenever I open Instagram and there's a little video from you, I get excited because I know it's just going to make me laugh and cheer me up. So you just have this infectious type of personality. So I can't wait for all my listeners to feel it as well.
Yes, I'm here to bring the good vibe and some wisdom too at the same time.
Finding our inner wisdom, we will get to that. But for my amazing audience members who don't know who you are or what you do, can you explain a little bit about who you are and what your business is about?
So I'm Ines, and I am dedicated to supporting self-employed women to stop stressing about food and their bodies. And I do that through weekly experiments, touching on intuitive eating, eating more plants, self-confidence, cooking, so that they can have more time and also brain space to focus on growing their business, growing their impact, and just living a life that is more aligned with their values and what they want to do.
Yeah, I love that because you are sort of talking all around the food and the health and nutrition, but you have kind of, I guess, niched down into doing this for solopreneurs or entrepreneurs or self-employed women. So can you tell us why you've kind of gone down that? Is this a reflection of your own story as to how you got here?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix. For sure, it's like everything that I'm doing today is like has been like something that I have personally went through myself. Like it was a journey of learning how to heal myself. Like I had lots of eczema, and dermatologists could not really like support me with like more than just a corticoid cream, which was not curing the root cause of the problem because it was just keeping on coming. And that's what led me to explore plant-based eating. And then from there, I've realized that my relationship with food was not like very healthy. Like I would eat, like I'm French, as you can tell from my accent. I love my pastries and I love my cakes and dough and brioche and bread. And I could like binge on it, like in the afternoon, like I would just like not be able to stop. And I was like just eating so much to a point where I had to just like take a nap, and I was not able to be productive at all. And so at some point after many years, like that was like throughout 10 years of my life, and I came across intuitive eating, and that concept of learning to tune in into your body to be able to know what it needs, like how much food, when, and what exactly, based on like what you are craving. And I know this can be sounding a bit strange because we're like, oh, but like if you were craving like cookies all the time, that's like, oh, I'm gonna eat all the time. But like it's reconnecting to your society, to your hunger, just being more present with yourself, because our bodies are sending us like signals at all time. It's just that we're not necessarily like really paying attention to it, and because we were not taught to. Like it's not our fault. Like we were brought in a specific way, and like plus the society we live in, very diet focused, right? Like everybody has been on a diet on this planet, I feel like. And so just making that peace and understanding also where those patterns that are not serving us, in terms of like food, and also like the inner self-talk that you have about yourself, your body, but like also what you can and cannot do, that can also be related to business eventually. All this and understanding where that comes from, and like doing the inner work to let go of these limiting beliefs that are not serving you. And so doing all that enabled me to like completely stop obsessing about food and stop like binge eating. Now I'm able to eat like just like I had a caramel slice the other day, and I just had like literally 2 bites, and that's it. I was satisfied with 2 bites. Before I would have finished the whole thing. And really at that point I thought that was never possible for me to ever be able to stop halfway, something like that, because I just love it so much. But it is, and I've got to that point, and I started like helping women, specifically because as a woman myself, I wanted to create a safe space for women to talk about these issues, and really understanding that men also have like issues related to food, but they're not affected exactly in the same way. Like they're not portrayed the same way in society and stuff like that. So I started just tailoring my coaching to women, and I just noticed that self-employed women were mostly coming towards me. And so I was like, you know what, like I'm just gonna create like a space for self-employed women. These are the women that I hang out with all the time, that I connect with, I'm in groups with, and I can really relate to their problems. As an entrepreneur myself, I am going through the same hurdles of building a business. I know what it takes to do that, and what it takes in terms of like mental and physical toll as well. So I can really tailor from what I've learned myself, and the system that I have created, and share that with them. And I think it's so much more like, I'm sure the people in your community can see how valuable it is to be in a space with others who are going through the same journey of like building a business or being a small business, and rather than being with like just XYZ people. And so I feel like having that in common, on top of, for my client to also want to better their health and their relationship with themselves, is like creating even stronger bonds. And I love seeing that. I think that provides and support them even better in their transformation.
Yeah. So you've mentioned so many things there that I want to dig a little bit further into, but how do you see the relationship between perhaps what we put into our bodies versus the way we view ourselves? And I'm not talking weight. I'm talking about, I guess, feelings in some way. Like I know myself, some days I'm really tired, and it's just like, oh, if I lived in town, I live on a farm, but if I lived in town, I reckon I'd go down the shop and try and buy a Red Bull or something. And so it's like, I just need something to give me some energy. I don't drink those drinks, but I've been very tempted sometimes to think, is that the solution? So how much is there a connection there as to what we put into our bodies as to how we are feeling in our day-to-day lives?
Yeah, it's very much linked, right? Like our emotions are very much driving also the way we eat, and also how we feel is going to drive how we eat, right? As human, we're always going to try to look for the quickest the quickest win, right? Like the shortest possible, like a way to get to our outcome. And so if you're tired, your body knows that there are several things that you've experienced in the past, such as like, okay, a stimulant through such as coffee or like Red Bull, or like some food that are high in carbs or sugar. This is what's going to bring energy in the body, right? And so understanding that this is like a natural drive that we have, we are not flawed, and understanding like you're not a bad person if you're craving this food, contrary to like what we always hear and be like, oh, but I should not be eating that, like I'm a terror, like we associate a state of being after eating a certain food. But when we dive a little bit deeper into it, we can ask ourselves, and that's what intuitive eating is all about, is it's not just about food, it's about giving your body what it needs in the present moment, because we're going to receive the signal. So for example, that signal for you, it was like, oh, I'm craving a Red Bull. And then you do the backward, you're like, why do I crave a Red Bull? Okay, I'm tired, right? But like, what is the like most productive way to feel like rejuvenated in that moment? Probably to take a nap, right? I'm tired, I need sleep. Like that's gonna be what your body truly needs in that moment. And then I understand that sometimes it's not gonna be possible, like to take like a 1 hour nap, and like we have meetings, we have to do things, deadlines and all this. But like even shorter, like a shorter nap, or just like taking 5 minutes to just do some like breathing or a meditation, these are like short ways that are actually going to be more beneficial in the short and medium and long term for your body and for your health than the quick win that is going to be like a relief for just maybe an hour or something, and then you're going to crash afterwards, right? Or you're just going to have to keep on getting more coffee in or more Red Bull, and that's not sustainable. And so it's about being aware of that, and trying to make those choices consciously.
Yeah, I must say, admit on the podcast, I don't drink coffee, so that's why I said Red Bull, because I'm not a coffee, and that I've never drank coffee ever. I don't like the smell of it, so I just can't, and I feel very foreign. Because I often say to people, want to go for a coffee, but I don't drink coffee, but I'll come for a coffee. I'll have something else. But yes, so anyway, that's why I went for the energy drink as opposed to the coffee.
Same but different, like they say in Asia.
Absolutely. I think this is such an important conversation, because I know like we're recording this at like 4:30 in the afternoon. I haven't had a lunch break, and I've been at my desk since about 8:30. And
Wow.
it's not that I haven't had a break, but I haven't had a lunch break, and I haven't, taken that 1 hour to myself to sit away from the computer to do what I want to do. I did start the morning sitting on the veranda eating, drinking a cup of tea. So I have had some gen time, but I think this is, and certainly the pandemic appears to have extenuated this. There are so many of us working from home now that this is what it is about. We're kind of, when I was in an office, I guess many years ago, you were forced to take an hour off. It was kind of like take an hour off, get away from your computer, go down to the shopping center, or help in the lunchroom or do whatever. But as a self-employed person, I don't give myself that privilege, and I feel this is a really important conversation to have, is about this refueling of our bodies. And I know that, that's something that you're super passionate about.
And yeah, definitely. And I can totally understand, because that happened to me too, even though like I'm in this space, like I'm not like someone who is like 100% or like a picture of perfection.
You're not
Because
perfect, no.
No, I'm not perfect. Oh wow. And that's what
Congratulations.
also I want to share all the time, that messaging. Like that's one of the guiding principle in my community, is like we take imperfect actions. And so to go back to your example, like I want to ask you, like, how do you experience that, like the difference between a day where you've had like an hour at lunch and you've taken your lunch and taken a break, and how is that impacting in the afternoon your work and your productivity? How do you feel the difference?
Yeah, look, I would say that I'm definitely a morning person, whether that's contributing to that or not. But, I could start work at 6 o'clock in the morning and get the bulk of what I needed to get done as far as creative space. But I must admit, sometimes I feel like if I stop, I find it hard to get going again. So if I had an afternoon nap, I'd be ruined for the rest of the day. I would be in lazy mode. A bit like if I sleep in too much, the day's ruined. If I get up late, I just want to be lazy all the day. But yeah, I'd say that sometimes I find it then hard to come back into a rhythm. I find it sometimes easier just to work through.
So that's interesting to notice and to understand. Okay, like that's why I like to ask this question, and to make people understand where those patterns come from, right? Because if we want to start changing a pattern, we need to understand like what's creating it in the first place. And so that definitely indicates that, like, if you're like, you want to get things done, like you are very passionate about your work, I know it, and you have a lot of things doing, like I'm always impressed at how much you fit in a day. And so when we understand, okay, you're afraid that you're not going to come back to work, so you're not allowing yourself to take that break. So it's about maybe looking for references in the past where you were able to like take that break and still get going and like have some work done, but maybe having Sue's like boundaries where you're like, yeah, by 3 or by 4 I want to get everything done, so I know that I'm gonna come back at like 1, and I'll just plug in like 2 hours of work, and being super like specific on what you want to get done during those 2 hours. First thing in the morning, like you're already very clear, and like it's not going to be like, I don't really want to do it, I don't even know, it's going to take too much work to figure it out, right? Like but definitely like nourishing your body is not something we can like skip. We can't, like people do it, and over the short term we're not necessarily gonna realize how much like this is taxing the body, but like this is something that is happening like over our lifespan, over years and years and years, and then at some point like something is gonna crack, like and the thing is with health is like it's not gonna happen within one day. Like it's being healthy, it's about consistency. It's not about eating one healthy meal that is gonna make you healthy. It's not like going to the gym once that's gonna make you fit, right? So it's about having those routine in place and seeing that as something that needs to be plugged in. Like this is like, for me, if it's a pyramid in our business, like we have like, yeah, the strategy, and like we need investment money and a coach and stuff like that, social media and all this. But for me, the base is your health. Because if you're sick tomorrow, if you have COVID, for example, we've all like pretty much experienced it by now. You're in bed, you can't work. Like when you are like not well in your body, your health is really your greatest wealth, because this, like, you can't really, like, you can't buy your health. Like you can make the investment in your business and like pay other people to do it for you, but your health, like, is relying on you and you being willing to take care and prioritize yourself. And fueling your body is like one of the things with like sleep and movement and mental health. I see it as those 4 different pillars that we need to check in every single day if we want to live our best and like most fulfilling and healthiest and joyful life.
Yeah. So for anyone who's listening who perhaps is busy, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I think there are a certain amount of people out there that say they are busy, but perhaps they're not as busy as they think they are. So I'm not, trying to use it in that way. But if for someone who's not prioritizing themselves, maybe that's a better way to term it. What is a step they could take whilst listening to this podcast or after listening to this podcast episode to maybe make that little bit of a shift?
So I like to always work in experiment and weekly experiment, because it's very tangible, and versus like, make a health change and like you need to do it your entire life and you're like overwhelmed and then you're like, fuck it, I'm not even going to start because like the mountain is too big. We've all been there. Like this is how basically most diets are working. So yes. I like the opposite of that. And I'm like, let's work like micro level. Like I know that everyone listening right now knows that there is one thing they haven't really been doing that they know would be beneficial for them in their health. Like when we can start with food, because that's what we've been talking about. And for example, if you is like the skipping like the lunch break, for example, and people find it hard to eat during lunch break. So making like a tiny experiment where maybe you could experiment just like making double quantities at dinner, right? So that you have the lunch already prepared. So that makes it even easier for you to actually get the food in, because you don't have to spend like 30 minutes cooking something and making something from scratch or ordering it. Like it's already clearing a lot of brain space having something ready, and just taking that one small experiment for that week. And I would love to hear what you come up with, and if you need like more ideas and stuff like that, I have plenty on my Instagram channel. But just making sure that it is achievable and exciting. Like these are my 2 like check when I set an experiment with my clients. If it's not achievable within that 1 week, it's too big, and you need to think like super small, because if we make incremental changes and increase like improve ourselves by 1% every single day over the course of 1 year, we end up 37% better than when we started, which is like huge when we think about it. 37% by just doing one tiny thing. That could be like sitting and just like doing 1 minute of meditation today, right? That could be taking just even one deep breath, like before starting a new task. That could be drinking one more glass of water. That could be just going for a 5-minute walk. So when we think about like that 1% growth that you can do as an experiment this week to like improve your state of well-being, and just having that quick win, and also being okay with accepting failure and the fact that maybe you're not going to do it. But in that case, for me, I love like to sprinkle curiosity in everything I do, and with my client as well, because you can't be judgmental and curious at the same time. It's just not possible. The brain cannot do that. So remembering that, okay, I didn't do it, instead of saying I'm a piece of shit, I should have done it, I'm going to punish myself, I'm going to work extra, and I'm not going to allow myself to see my friends or do this or that. No, stop. Let's be curious, like what happened? Okay, yes, no, I prioritize other things. And why do I do that? Because maybe I've conditioned myself to do that for the past 20 years. All right, so maybe it's okay to like give myself some slack and acknowledge that 20 years of conditioning and trying to change it all at once is not really sustainable. So again, going back to the 1%, make it even smaller the next time.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that. I'm all about the 1%. The 1%, they add up over time. Absolutely. Yeah, so good. One of the things on your website which I loved was you talked about joyful eating. Can you explain a little bit more about what joyful eating is?
Yeah. So for me, joyful eating is like bringing the fun and excitement that I believe that most people have on this planet around food, right? Like, I feel like at least the people I surround myself with, they all love food. But then I think that the way we've been raised in the society that promotes like a specific like standard of beauty and weight and shape of our bodies is making it becoming stressful for us to eat. And like there is so much like worries that goes around, like what I should eat and like how much, and like, oh, but I should avoid this, but then I eat it anyway and I beat myself up for like eating it, and like that guilt cycle that goes on and on and on, like that's what preventing the joyful eating. And so for me it's about letting go of these conditioning and taking the power back again, and like being fully present with ourselves and like enjoying the food that we have in front of us, no matter what it is, like whether that's like a cookie or a healthy salad or like lasagna, whatever it is. We can bring that joyful piece once we understand why we've been thinking this way in the past and like where that guilt's come from, and then letting go of that so that we can come back to our true self. Because when we were babies, we were joyful eating, right? Eaters. We're like also intuitive eaters, because we were crying when we were hungry to ask for food, and then we would stop when we were full. And right now these cues are like completely thrown out the window. We don't really pay attention to them anymore, and we just eat when we're not hungry because we are maybe stressed with something that is going on in the business, right? We eat way past our society points and then feel lethargic. And so this is like taking away also the joy from the food, because this is adding again the guilt. So it's coming back to ourselves, to our true self.
Yeah. Actually, that was my next question. And really, I guess the question that I was curious about was the intuitive eating, or probably not so much the intuitive eating, but the signals that our body sends us. Like if we are conditioned at the moment to ignore those signals, like, you know, my example of I'm tired, so what can I have to not be tired, as opposed to listening to my body and going, you're tired. How is that just a matter of just being more aware of our body's signals and taking the time to listen to them rather than trying to shut them up and push them down and going, nope, not right now, I have no time for you? Is that what you teach, is just learning to sit and listen and be aware?
Yeah, because I believe that like change starts with awareness. And for me, it's like 3 steps. It's like notice, explore with curiosity, and then act, right? And so that first step is awareness. And so a lot of people, we all know that we have hunger cues and society cues. Like I'm pretty sure like everyone is pretty much aware of that. They know it somewhere in the back of their mind. Like if
So
I
what's
ask
a
them,
society cue? Can you explain what a society cue is?
it's like when you feel full, basically.
Okay.
And that's going to vary depending on the food that you eat and how long before you've eaten. This is always going to change, and that's what's like the beauty of the body, is like it's always going to give you the right information according to whatever has happened in the past, right? Whereas like a diet is telling you need to eat this amount of grams and this amount of this, and it's not taking in consideration all that there is to know about you as how is your body functioning and whatever happened in terms of like exercise and stuff like that. Like naturally you're gonna be want like eating more food after a workout, because that's what you need, and like your body is going to adapt that, your hunger and your society as well, so without us even having to work and think about it. And this is like the beauty of the body. And those cues, it's about like, I have like experiment where just like for one full week we just focus on our hunger cue. Another week we focus on just our fullness, and we do a tiny experiment around that. And so the different there is always a different stages like that you can experiment with. And so if you're a beginner, it's just about noticing. It's not even about acting according to it, it's just about noticing. And like, okay, when I said as an experiment, when I sit down to eat breakfast, I'm just gonna rate my hunger, because there is like a hunger fullness scale with like 1 2 3 until 10, and it tells you that the different ratio of like, okay, 5 is like neutral, like you're not full, you're not hungry, like you're just like, I'm good. So it's about using that scale just for like 1 week, and then if you're like, you've practiced that in the past, then you can go to the next level and like trying to like act according to it.
Yeah, this is all so interesting, and I love your passion for it. And I think when you were just talking about diets before, about they tell you to eat a certain amount or something, that was just the gold in itself, to sort of go, well, no, actually we need to listen to our bodies and see how much they need. I just think this is such an important conversation to have with small business owners, especially seeing so many of us are at home working, and we are somewhat out of routine. I don't know, maybe everyone's created brand new routines by now, but the world has changed, we have changed, and the world is still changing, I guess, at the end of the day. So yeah, it was a really important conversation that I wanted to have. Is there anything you want to add that we haven't spoken about before we wind up?
Just that to bring that curiosity around their health habits. I know that especially with the pandemic, like this has had a big toll on our mental health, and also our mental health is going to affect how we eat and how we take care of ourselves, right? And being in that constant like 24/7 go, I need to work and create and do this, and like I understand it, because I have ideas that pop up in the middle of my dream, in my sleep. But creating those boundaries with yourself in terms of like how much and when you start and stop working, and like especially to have a lunch break and a dinner, and being able to have that time off of work as well, which I know is so difficult to do, especially if you're driven and like so motivated and passionate about what you do, which I am too. But I was in that place during the first year of lockdown, and my body completely shut down, and like I was like, I had eczema all over my body, and that was so painful. And I understood that at that time, if I didn't listen better to my body cues of like, I should have, like, I knew that I was craving rest, and I just wanted to just have time off to do nothing, but I was not allowing myself to do it. And so we are usually our hardest like critique, and also bosses. When I realized I was like a boss to myself, that I wish, like I would never wish anyone to have myself as a boss, like as how I was treating myself. So start considering yourself like what type of boss do you want to be for yourself, and that boss would like definitely tell you to take a break, just like in corporate. Like don't, like, no, the lunch break is the lunch break, you don't do shit during that time, like everybody knows you can't be contacted. And so starting putting this boundary, and this is like also a big topic, I go more in depth with my clients, but like it's when we set up ourselves for a healthy living and lifestyle, that's when we can actually thrive and take our business to the next level, because it's not from a state of being burned out and like go that we can really step into that next level that we all want to reach more impact.
Yeah, Beautiful. What a great note to end on, to encourage people to be thinking a little bit more about this for themselves and for their own sake at the end of the day. Like you say, you know, as the solopreneur, as my own boss, you know, if I can't work, then my business can't turn necessarily, but that's a whole different conversation altogether as well. Ines, this has been such a great chat. I am so thankful for you coming on the podcast and talking to my beautiful listener about this. If anyone wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way to follow along and to get some more wisdom from you?
Thank you so much for this invite in this beautiful podcast. And my main platform is Instagram. So just Ines, INES_Shubi, SCHUBI. And that's where I post daily stories and tips and tricks through my reels. And I have also in the link in bio there, you can find a little free mini course around starting intuitive eating with your cravings. So that's a good way to start.
Excellent. I will have the link to that in the show notes, of course. So that will make it easy to find as well. Thank you so much again for coming on, Ines. You are an amazing human and very thankful for your time today.
Thank you so much, Jen.
I really hope you enjoyed that chat. She's such a bright spark, isn't she? I just love her energy all the time. Remember, the links are at the show notes, or they're not at the show notes, they're in the show notes for you to go and follow her and maybe have a look at her program if that sounds like something that would really help you on your entrepreneurial or your business journey. But otherwise, we can continue this chat in Like-Minded Business Owners Facebook group. If you haven't joined the Facebook group, then shoot over there and join. I would love to see you over there as well. And I also have some amazing guests and experts coming on doing lives this year. I've already had 2, and I've got a whole list of amazing women and men coming to share their expertise over there, from finance experts to PR to marketing to law, you name it. I've got someone coming to do a live Q&A and also a bit of a live presentation with you. Another amazing reason to come and join my community. But that is all for another episode of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Remember, you can find the show notes at all the W's, social media and marketing.com.au/186. Thanks to the Melbourne Innovation Centre and Digital Solutions Program for supporting this episode again today. If you're based in Victoria, don't forget to check out the program by going to courses.melbourneinnovation.com.au. And for $44, you can get access to one-to-one mentoring and help you take your business to the next level. But I will see you next week on the podcast for episode 187. But in the meantime, like I said at the start, let's hang out and get social on social. You will, of course, find me on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. But whatever you do, remember, my small business peeps, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.